All right, welcome back to our first session of Hangout On Air, where we're discussing mindset of innovation within a company. Previously, we were chatting a little bit about what are the foundational things that you need to establish, and what are some of the fundamentals around innovating within a company, and how you can approach entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship, whatever you like to call it. So, Max, why don't you take us back to what you were talking about in our first session and give us a little insight into what are some of the first steps and things you need to consider while wanting to become more innovative or entrepreneurial?
Absolutely. Jordan, thank you so much for having me this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely.
um, the main thing that I think you have to start off with when you're thinking about innovation inside a company is starting off with why. You believe that, I believe that. As I've mentioned earlier, Simon Sinek believes it, and it's because it's essential to who we are as people, and just in general to a really authentic way of growing a company. Companies will have innovation in their vision and mission, but what you'll have is people that are living in cubicles that are up to the ceiling. So you can't see the innovation, thus it's hard to feel it and even get it started. It really has to start with a why. Why do people want to do it? I think it's a great tool to engage employees, a great tool to actually boost the business. But having that why, that sense of urgency to really take action is that difference maker.
So, is this like taking the mission statement to a whole other level, or is it, can this be applied to individuals, or is it like business units? What is it specifically?
It's all over the board. Innovation is it is important to have it as part of the mission and vision, but those have to be enforced.
Hmm.
It's one thing to have a statement on the wall; it's another thing to truly live it.
Hmm.
I've gone into companies and seen it on the wall and seen it multiple times. This is the core of it, and it's true. It did get the company there,
Hmm.
being innovative in some form or fashion, but somehow, somewhere along the way, they got lost. And so that is where individuals do have to rise up and either represent that mission or be the internal rebel and shake it up from within.
That's an interesting concept. So, one thing I've noticed through really great companies is that often that founder or CEO is really good at being the North Star for the grandiose mission, big, hairy, audacious goal of that company.
Hmm.
Yet they still find ways to empower their employees to, innovate and be creative. And so it's an interesting dynamic because I think there's
Hmm.
definitely a balance you have to play there. Um, but what about if you're the individual working for a company and you do want to align with that mission, or you're searching for a way to align with that mission? How important is that? I mean, as an individual working for a company, what if you don't necessarily understand or believe in that mission, or you're not quite sure what your mission is as an individual?
Well, you're there for a certain reason.
Hmm.
If it's there for even for a paycheck,
Hmm.
hopefully you're there for more than just a paycheck at any organization.
Hmm.
But you're there for a reason, and with that, you have an opportunity to do a heck of a lot more than just receive a paycheck.
Hmm.
What up, updates?
ESPN, what's up? So on that same line of thought,
Hmm.
how important is it for individuals today to be kind of that self-reliant entrepreneurial type? Even if you have been in a corporate type role for a long time,
Hmm.
you know, tell us about the importance of thinking entrepreneurially, even if you're not going to go start a business.
Well, I feel like, for one, entrepreneurs are the modern day rock star. You don't see people signing up in as big of droves to become musicians. you see people lining up to try and launch new companies. And so, as in the 80s and 90s, as a result of like wanting to be rock stars, you had people that had garage bands. And now what you have is you have people that have startups on the side or something like that. But now companies are starting to embrace this cultural shift that we've seen in society and started to figure out how can we apply this into the company. One, to get people excited, but two, as a necessity so that we can compete with the rise of these startups.
Hmm.
So knowing that it's a cultural part of it is key. But you can kick off with small doses. You can ask a simple thing, the question of what are the things that piss me off, and go out and make them better, or have an idea and share it and do something with it.
That's awesome. So one thing that I noticed when I was at Walmart,
And this is the corporation, not a store, right?
the corporate headquarters. That was after I worked the door. But one thing that I noticed that was actually really effective and most people were scared to do
Hmm.
was just start working on something without permission.
Hmm.
Um, and constantly be looking for that personal development, and feeding that desire to do something that I cared about. It was actually very uh, interesting to me to see a corporation that large and that bureaucratic allow for a very kind of open door policy. Now, granted, I would say that there were times when some of my ideas and things would get lost in that bureaucracy, but the access to just go and start kind of connecting the dots in different departments was always kind of made available, and I never seem to get any repercussions from that, and I gained a lot through that, and I think that if more people took that approach, maybe if they have been in a job for a while, and they're in a rut or they want to make a change or grow in that role,
Hmm.
um, finding out for themselves what it is that they care about within that company or something that bothers them and just going and doing it
Hmm.
is a extremely empowering thing, but also you're going to learn a lot. You're going to potentially provide value for your company, and the connections that you make and the presence that you define for yourself in the company, I think is extremely valuable. Um,
Absolutely. So give us an example. You don't have to go into full details of an instance where there was something that you cared about, that you raised hell, or did things without permission.
so I'd say one of the most interesting things I did was um, there was I worked in kind of the general ledger type role in the accounting department at Walmart, and there was a specific vendor, a really well known kind of web advertising vendor that um, there was an invoice owed to, and something was out of balance for the store that it was connected to, and this department that it was connected to, and all this stuff, and it kept getting thrown into this kind of management type role, like we need to handle this type thing, and I just kind of took it upon myself to do some research and find out from the stores and from the departments, face to face. So I contacted them and just reached out and said, hey, are you familiar with this? Tell me more about it. And I just started listening and trying to see if I could find any ways to connect the dots. And I actually ended up contacting um, a executive within the company that I knew who could escalate things quickly and also know who the vendor was and understand the importance of alleviating the problem quickly. And it actually got done. They actually responded to me, and
Hmm.
it worked well. whereas the folks that it kind of got handed off to, that was like the hierarchy and the protocol, they were waiting for responses from their managers or the people, that they're held accountable from, which to me sounded like a really good way of wasting time. And so when I said, okay, well, what's going to get the job done quickly, or who does this need to go to actually accomplish it? That ended up being the quicker way to resolve it. Now, I will say that I kind of got put on notice where they were like, you shouldn't do that again, but no one ever said, hey, this is going to cost you your job if you do that again, or anything like that. So if there are ways, I guess in short, if there are ways to cut out some of the chain of communications and open things up more collaboratively, so you see things more decentralized and less of a, this, then this, but what if we could just have it immediately go to the right person?
Mm-hmm.
That made a huge impact, and I know for sure that it impacted that customer. So in that case, the vendor was actually the customer because we needed to get paid, and it definitely made an impact in that instance. So, there are some other examples too, but I think that was
Great.
the one thing that stood out to me that was like, here is a way to directly impact it.
So to put what you just described in boxes, I think there are a few things. One was, instead of going the classic route of asking for permission, you went the route of asking for forgiveness. I don't know if you had to ask for forgiveness, but you just did it. And so as I think about innovation in a lot of companies, and this is Fortune 500s, ones that you've been a part of, ones that I've gone in and conducted meetings for, they ask for permission to innovate. And so an example oftentimes is innovation in companies looks like people getting the opportunity to present their ideas to senior leaders. And so people spend all this time putting together a proposal to share with senior leaders, so senior leaders can then say, oh, that doesn't fit with our strategic initiatives or our key goals, and they kill it right away, because killing ideas is free. And so what they did is they asked for permission. Whereas for you, what you did in that little stint right there is that you just said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure it out, and then show, hey, I figured it out. Let's bring this to life. Not, hey, I'd like to explore if I could figure this out. So
Right on.
two completely different things, and two completely different results.
Absolutely. Well, that's pretty much all the time we have for today. We want to keep it short and simple. For those of you tuned in, thank you. If you have any questions, you can hit us up. Max, where can people find you if they need to get in touch with you?
Man, I started thinking about that Young Jock song, It's Going Down. Find me in the club. It's going down. It is Friday after all. You can, for real, it's a good song. Like, there's some of those hip hop songs.
All right, all right, all right, all right.
Anyway.
So, all right, so Twitter, how can we find you on Twitter?
Yeah, so first off, it's all about the team. So createreason.com is the website. The email is team@createreason.com. And the Twitter is @createreason. From there, you can find myself, which is @MaxOnTheTrack. And you have Jordan over here, which is @JordanTCarlisle. But you just got to create reason.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in, and please share if you like it, and give us feedback if you don't. And y'all have a great weekend.
Peace.